Hey there, YouTube and Wooper Club fans. Michael, aka Fruit Taco, aka the coach of the Route 1 Birbs, here bringing you an excellent match from Week 7 here in WCL Season 15. It stars myself and my own Birbs going up against the Wooper Boopers. And let me assure you, there's a lot to get into, so let's get started right away. My Birbs have Iron Valiant, New Terra Captain, Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Lycanroc, Dusk, Hydreigon, Rotom Frost, Mesprit, Muck, Terra Captain, Crocolore, Fortress, Gastrodon, and Hisuian Avalugg going up against the Boopers with Sneasler, Raikou, Terra Captain Enamorus, Jirachi, Baxcalibur, Terra Captain Tatsugiri, Lycanroc Midnight, Serena, Oinkologne, Incineroar, and Sableye. The speed matchup here between the teams is actually, I think, pretty close. The Boopers have the fastest Mon in Sneasler, but the top 8 fastest Mons are spread pretty evenly between us. I do think that the Boopers end up slightly ahead, but not by a ton, so expect a lot of careful investment and some choice scarves in this match. For my team, looking at how I match up into the Boopers, well, the Boopers are weak to Fairy, Fighting, Ground, and Rock, with Bug, Dragon, and Ghost being okay coverage options. With natural weaknesses to Fairy and Fighting, and their Fighting resists not being particularly bulky, you know that Iron Valiant looks absolutely fantastic. New Terra Captain Ogerpon also looks great. The Boopers have good fire resists in things like Tatsugiri and Incineroar, but their other resists are low tiers, so I'd be shocked if Tatsugiri comes and Incineroar is going to have a lot of pressure on it from some of my other Pokemon, so I definitely think Ogerpon can be put in a really good position. The Boopers have 2 terrifying setup threats in Contrary, Terra Stellar Enamorus, and Dragon Dance Baxcalibur. With 2 sturdy Mons, Crocolore, and strong super effective priority into both of them, I actually feel like I have several options to manage them. You can bet I'm going to be focusing a lot on prep for those threats though. As the season is wrapping up, I have 4 Pokemon that need to come to a match in these last 2 weeks. Ogerpon, Mesprit, Rotom, and Avalugg, and I'd like to bring at least 2 of them this week, so we'll see how that ends up playing into my choices. For the Boopers looking how they match up into me, well, my team is weak to Fighting, Ground, Rock, and Water, with Dark Dragon and Ghost being okay neutral options. Of course, I mentioned that the Enamorus and Baxcalibur are terrifying and they're definitely going to be coming. Sneasler, of course, I also expect to come for that speed advantage over Valiant, quite likely having a choice scarf to outspeed Booster Energy or Scarfed Valiant. Incineroar definitely is going to come for the valuable Intimidate for Ogerpon as well as Lycanroc, even though it's weak to Lycanroc. Special Wall Jirachi I think is pretty likely to be able to switch into Iron Valiant too. The Boopers need to bring Raikou, Lycanroc, and Oinkologne in these last 2 weeks, so I'm paying a little extra attention to those. Of them, Lycanroc is the one I definitely expect. Choice Scarf, No Guard, Stone Edge into a team with only 2 rock resists, one being an Iron Valiant that can't freely take hits. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's coming. Overall, I think this is actually a very cool matchup. I think I have the better matchup with the typings of Lycanroc and Valiant being very strong here, as well as having multiple options to check the big opposing sweepers. I think the Boopers could definitely get a win here, though. They've been team building and playing so well this season. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a battle of who can get ahead first. We both have answers to each other's threats, so I think it'll be pretty close until someone gets out of position and things start to develop from there. I feel pretty good, but let's see if I still feel that way after checking out what's coming. Here are the 6 Pokemon that I ended up with, and we're going to start it off with the unlikely Hisuian Avalugg. Max HP, max defense with heavy duty boost to preserve sturdy. Earthquake, body press, and heavy slam coverage options with rapid spin to remove hazards. Definitely starting it off a little spicy, bringing what is perhaps the worst Avalugg form with the devastating 4 times weaknesses to both fighting and steel. I'm not expecting a ton from this, but spinning and getting a good hit or 2 off would be great, with Sturdy allowing me to guaranteed smack a sweeper that's getting out of hand. Heavy Slam is a 7 in 8 chance to OHKO Enamorus, while Body Press does 72% minimum to No Bulk Baxcalibur, and Earthquake has a 1 in 4 chance to OHKO No Bulk Sneasler, easily putting all of those threats in range to be picked off by priority moves from my other attackers, even without any attack investment on this Avalugg. and that defense investment makes Jolly Sneasler's close combat only even take me down to sturdy a little more than half the time. Can you believe that? A 4 times effective 120 base power attack coming off of 130 base attack, and it only kills half the time? That's actually pretty crazy. I'm not expecting a ton from this guy, but he looks better than I thought he would. Next, we have Ogrepon Hearthflame Max Attack Jolly Nature with enough speed to outspeed Enamorous and Adamant Sneasler, with a little extra in case Raikou shows up and speed creeps that range. Of course, we have that Hearthflame Mask and Terra Fire as is required on this Pokemon. Ivy Cudgel is the main stab option with Trailblaze for additional stab and speed boosts, Brick Break for coverage and breaking screens, and Substitute to potentially block Intimidate from Incineroar if it doesn't immediately switch into me. I said I wanted 2 new Mons here, and here's the second right up front. This thing's offenses are insane after Terra, with neutral Ivory Cudgel being stronger than super effective Brick Break and absolutely smacking a lot of things. Tatsugiri I expect to stay behind this week, and with Trailblaze for Lycanroc and Brick Break for Incineroar, watch out. Brick Break does half to max HP Incineroar, so with a bit of chip on it, this thing absolutely goes to town and forces sacks. With Sneasler and Incineroar around though, I don't expect to sweep with this, but hopefully get a nice KO and break things for Lycanroc and Iron Valiant to clean up. Substitute was a bit of a throwaway move here. The ability to block, intimidate, and preserve my +1 attack from Embody Aspect is nice, but ultimately probably too niche against the Boopers' threatening offensive Mons. Superpower does more to Incineroar, but I'm pretty happy with Brick Break, so maybe Spiky Shield to scout moves or Swords Dance to be able to cancel Intimidate rather than dodging it would have been better choices. Next is Lycanroc Max Attack Adamant with a Choice Scarf and enough speed to outspeed +1 Baxcalibur and Scarfed Adamant Jirachi. Accelerock is my only stab move here, with Drill Run, Close Combat, and Brick Break for coverage and utility. Accelerock is really strong here, doing 80% minimum to Enamorous, 50% minimum to Baxcalibur, and still a respectable 21% to Sneasler. Drill Run covers Sneasler and Jirachi, with Close Combat hitting Incineroar and an opposing Scarfed Lycanroc Midnight. Brick Break is again in case screens come on the other side. I'm not expecting them per se, but if I'm not prepared for them and they do come, I'm probably screwed. Choice Scarf isn't my favorite item here. Expert Belt would be really nice, but I'm really expecting the opposing Lycanroc to come with a Scarf, and having this is nice, as well as potentially getting the jump on something else. I'm still not super happy with the Scarf, but I'm not upset with it, and I think there are a lot of good reasons to bring it, so I am. Next is my other staple attacker, Iron Valiant. Max special attack and speed Timid Nature to outspeed Raikou if it comes. Choice Specs is going to be boosting the power of Moonblast and Focus Blast stab options with a Vacuum Wave priority and Shadow Ball coverage. This set I am definitely happier with. With Sneasler and Jirachi being the only fairy resists, Moonblast still actually has a chance to OHKO Sneasler, and Shadow Ball does about half on average to max special defense Jirachi. Focus Blast is extra power in case I need it, but Vacuum Wave does over half to Baxcalibur while also providing OK chip against Sneasler and Enamorous despite the 4 times resists. If I can chip the Jirachi or predict it and smack it once with a Shadow Ball, Moonblast is going to absolutely take lives. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting in and clicking buttons with this Mon. Next is Forretress, max HP, max defense with a relaxed nature lowering speed instead of special attack and heavy-duty boots protecting that sturdy ability. Body Press and Gyro Ball to hit Baxcalibur and Enamorous with Volt Switch pivoting and Thunder Wave for slowing down some of the more annoying Mons. Gyro Ball OHKOs Enamorous and does over 73% to Scarfed Sneasler, while Body Press does easily over half to Baxcalibur. I really liked the combination of Volt Switch pivoting and Thunder Wave to keep momentum if I force out something like Jirachi or Lycanroc. Hazards would have been nice, but the Boopers are a boots-prone team with a lot of rock weaknesses and not great spinners into me, so I felt okay leaving them off here for both of those moves. Maybe rocks instead of T-Wave would have been better. I don't know. I think they both have their merits, and we'll just have to see how it goes in the match. And last is Gastrodon. Max HP, max special defense with Rocky Helmet for some extra potential chip on things like U-Turn. Storm Drain is going to absorb Tatsugiri's water moves if it happens to come. Surf and Earth Power Stab with Ice Beam coverage and recover. I can't focus on only physical defense and just lose to Enamorus that easily, or even Tatsugiri potentially if it happens to come, so here is a special wall. Earth Power hits Sneasler, Jirachi, Lycanroc, and Incineroar, and then Ice Beam hits everything that resists Earth Power. And Surf, well, what's Surf here for? I think it's here to be able to not let Lycanroc get a Trailblaze for free if it has an air balloon or something like that, but that's pretty darn niche. Rocks, Mirror Coat, Clear Smog, Chilling Water, Yawn. There were probably a lot of better moves that could have gone there. Not that mad at it though. This set takes 38% max from +1 Enamorus' Terra Blast while doing 50% back with Ice Beam and walls Tatsugiri pretty well, which are the things that it's here to do. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this team. Some concessions definitely needed to be made though. No hazards was a rough call, but I think expecting a bunch of boots was reasonable to do. On my sturdy mons, I'll be trying to preserve them to take down Enamorus and Excalibur in an emergency, but finding that potential free move slot on Gastrodon in hindsight here does sting. Likewise, I didn't bring Crocolore, who has been stunning in its ability to shut down setup sweepers. Thinking this was my better match to bring Avalugg to, though, and wanting Gastrodon in case of Tatsugiri coming happens, that means that unfortunately my little boy had to stay home this week. Still, though, I think I have a lot of answers offensively and defensively to what the Boopers might bring, so I still feel pretty good about the team, and let's move on to what the Boopers are bringing. So here are the 6 Pokemon the Boopers are bringing. Starting it off with Sneasler, max attack Jolly with enough speed to outspeed Iron Valiant, and then the remainder in special defense. Close Combat and Dire Claw are the stab options with of course U-turn to get around, and then normal gem boosted Fake Out to activate Unburden. This wasn't the approach to Sneasler's speed control that I was expecting, but it's definitely a good one. With an Unburden boost, this outspeeds anything on my team with or without a Scarf. The Unburden is a little bit of a risk, though, over a Choice Scarf because it is a one-time thing and will be gone if you're forced out after activating it. And with just Close Combat and Dire Claw, it could definitely be forced out by something like Fortress, Muck, or even Gastrodon if the Sneasler is forced to end a sweep from any of my fast Pokemon that have a Scarf or Speed Boost early in the match. We'll just have to see if that comes into play or not. Next is Enamorus, max special attack, enough speed, and a Choice Scarf to outspeed Modest Scarfed Valiant, and a bit of physical attack investment as well. Moonblast and Contrary benefiting Stellar Terra Blast with Superpower as well, and then Healing Wish as a utility option. I really like this bring. I haven't been very focused on hazards this season, and with a spinner coming that you see at the end there, leaving the boots off of Enamorus and Excalibur is a really nice call. It's risky, but I think it's very well calculated risk and definitely worth it here. Healing Wish is a little niche, but there isn't really a particular move I'd look at over it here. The big mistake here I definitely think is with the nature though. Hasty boosts speed and lowers defense. With the lowered defense, Adamant, Lycanroc's Accelerock has a little over a 1 in 3 chance to actually OHKO you, as opposed to never OHKOing with a neutral nature. I'd go minus special defense instead, as you 4 times resist Vacuum Wave, the other priority move I'm likely to be packing, and even with a hindering nature, you still take 80% max from Timid Valiant's Moonblast. The attack investment here gives you a good chance to OHKO no-bulk Lycanroc, but you could even go maybe with a minus attack nature here, because +1 Terra Blast is going to be your move of choice into basically everything. Nitpicks aside though, this thing is definitely going to be a big threat. And not to be outdone is Excalibur, max attack Adamant nature with enough speed to outspeed bulky Ogerpon or modest Mesprit, with a chunk invested into physical defense as well. Loaded Dice is going to boost the consistency of Icicle Spear Stab with Ice Shard priority, Earthquake, and Dragon Dance. Bringing Loaded Dice is very fun. That makes Icicle Spear at least base 100 power, and with 2 of my ice resists being weak to ground, Earthquake pairs great with it. Ice Shard is, of course, useful to hit my fast options, and if this gets 1 or 2 dances up, it's definitely going to be a problem. While I don't like this as a sweeper as much as the Enamorus, this is still definitely very, very scary. Next is Jirachi, max HP with a Timid nature and EVs split between special attack and speed to outspeed Modest Hydreigon. With just a couple extra EVs, you could outspeed max speed Rotom, but Rotom probably isn't coming, if it is, something you're not that scared of. Leftovers is going to get you some passive recovery, then we've got Wish and Stealth Rock support with U-turn pivoting and Psychic as the stab move of choice here. There were a lot of directions Jirachi could go in here, I think. Scarfed Ironhead, max special defense, screens, or status, so it's interesting to see what exactly the Boopers ended up with. Rock's Wish and U-Turn certainly all sound great, with Psychic easily OHKOing Offensive Valiant, while being an okay neutral option, especially if you can get some Serene Grace special defense drops. I'm not sure exactly what they're going for with it though, as this does 109% minimum to an Iron Valiant that speed creeps Enamorous and puts the extra EVs into HP. You almost always two-shot max HP Muck through Black Sludge though, so if I had to hazard a guess, that might be what they're worried about. I guess with no Earth Power on Enamorous, Muck could be a problem for it before it can boost, and Sneasler of course can't touch Muck with its moveset. I'd still have considered dropping a little special attack investment for some extra bulk though, but I do like this bring. Next is Incineroar, max HP with an adamant nature and a lot of attack with leftovers in defense and of course Intimidate to also help take physical hits and heavy duty boots to protect it from rocks. Parting Shot utility with Flare Blitz and Knockoff Stab and then Earthquake coverage. This is a hard Ogerpon check. Of course, Intimidate and naturally resisting Ogerpon's dual stabs is a good start, but the significant attack investment is here to do 75% minimum with Earthquake to an Ogerpon that speed creeps Enamorous and puts the leftover EVs into physical defense, and then has Terrid into a pure fire type. Pair that with 25% from Ogerpon switching into Stealth Rocks, which it can't hold boots to avoid, and that's a guaranteed KO. It's a bit aggressive of a strategy to deal with Ogerpon, probably sacrificing most of your Incineroar to deal with it, but Ogerpon is very scary with an attack boost, and if it gets a speed boost, it would force Weavile to activate Unburden to stop it. Of course, Incin is weak to Lycanroc, so Incin doesn't make a great answer to that, and I like the call to go all in on using it to take out the Ogerpon. The rest of the moves are good too, especially Knock Off to remove Crocolore's Eviolite if it comes. This is just a really smart set and really good use of this Pokemon. Mad props to the Boopers for this Incineroar. And last up is Serena. No boots on Baxcalibur and Enamorous means you should have a spinner, and with Tatsugiri having a poor matchup, here comes the Serena. Max HP and physical defense with heavy-duty boots to switch into hazards, Petal Blizzard Stab to hit Lycanroc and Gastrodon, with Rapid Spin, Reflect, and U-Turn for some utility. This is another smart set. I might have even gone with dual screens, because I really like giving your sweepers more room to set up and go to town while also helping keep them safe from super effective priority. Talk about getting some use out of Queenly Majesty too. Predict an Accelerock going into Baxcalibur or Enamorous, and then switch in for free and negate that attack. Petal Blizzard isn't great into my team, but it hits Lycanroc, who you're going to be switching into, and Gastrodon, who is a wall that you don't have a great way through besides this Pokemon, so I definitely think it's the right call here. Overall, man, the Boopers are not messing around this week. Not bringing any of your unbrought Mons is a daring choice, especially since there's a real possibility of their Week 8 opponent needing to forfeit because of life happening, and as of our match, no one knew what that would or wouldn't mean for any still unbrought Mons. Anyway, about the team itself, I really like it. It's super threatening with answers to my scariest Pokemon and power that can clean up once those threats are dealt with. No sense in putting it off any further though. Let's see how the match went down and if the Boopers prep is going to win it for them at the end of the day. Alright, jumping into things here, well, looking at what the Boopers brought, Serena is here, which is definitely a pain for Gastrodon. No Lycanroc or any of the unbrought Mons definitely makes me feel a little behind, at least in terms of quality of the Pokemon brought, but this is mostly what I prepared for, so I feel pretty fine about it all. For the Boopers seeing what I brought, no Crocalore is probably the big surprise for them, while seeing that I did bring the big table. All in all, I feel like this is mostly what the Boopers prepped for though, so they're probably feeling okay seeing all of this too. For leads, we're going to see Jirachi and Lycanroc. I have Scarfed Lycanroc, who at least has a super effective option for everything except Serena. I have also gone with Sash Lycanroc several times, so maybe I could potentially bluff a Focus Sash now or later. The Boopers are going to lead with Jirachi, who can take a hit and U-turn out while bluffing potential super effective damage onto all of my hazard setters. While I'd love to get damage on Jirachi for Valiant, I only do 67% max to max HP Jirachi, and I risk taking a big Iron Head back, so I'm going to switch into Gastrodon to take the potential Steel move. U-turn will trade chip damage with the Rocky Helmet and bring out Excalibur right away after seeing I'm specially defensive, which makes sense as Serena would just let Ogerpon in if it comes in right now. Fortress is going to come in to scare backs out, but 5 hits and a crit on this Icicle Spear you're going to see here is going to reveal that loaded dice tech on the Excalibur. Jirachi is going to come in as I'm happy to Thunderwave just about anything and catch that Jirachi with it. I need to respect potential fire coverage and hard switch back to Gastro, which lets the rocks go up there. I predict a U-turn and go for Ice Beam to catch Serena, but Wish goes up instead. Going to make a middle ground here, play here, and recover up potential U-turn chip as any damage it would do would be healed by Wish. And then I'm going to send in Fortress here to take a potential Grass move, but the Reflect goes up. Something I was definitely expecting on the Jirachi, not the Serena here. Screens on Serena is really cool that Mon gets that. It gives it some nice additional utility. U-turn is going to come out from Serena and bring in the Incineroar, but then a slower Volt Switch is going to let me get in Ogerpon without being intimidated here. Terra Fire gets the attack boost, and then Brick Break is going to Shadow Reflect before chunking Incin, but the Boopers prep pays off, and EQ is guaranteed to pick up the KO there. I was definitely caught off guard by that Earthquake. It was really well done by the Boopers, and I probably should have played it a little safer. I wanted the attack boost for extra damage on Incineroar, and was completely expecting Parting Shot there to be able to get another Intimidate off. It makes sense that Incineroar is the Ogerpon switch in, though, and should have something to hit it back with, though. So if I had thought about it a little more, maybe I'd have thought to not Terra yet, seeing as I don't KO and Earthquake is a possibility. Hats off to the Woopers for the prep here, though, although Valiant is going to get a free hit on something here. Jirachi is going to switch in to take an attack, but I get huge damage with Shadow Ball, revealing my choice specs. Trading Ogerpon for most of Incineroar's health isn't abysmal, but I'm definitely behind, so I want to get some momentum back. Shadow Ball almost certainly KOs Incin anyway, so it's an easy call, but I'm definitely aiming at a Jirachi that I expect to come in this turn, and I get that right. Incin at least has Intimidate, so Jirachi is going to be the sack here, and it's going to let in Sneasler. Of course, I can't stay in, so Fortress is going to absorb a Dire Claw there. U-turn is going to bring out the Serena, revealing that Sneasler isn't Scarfed, but Gyro Ball does way less to Serena than it would have to that Sneasler. I probably should have Volt Switched here, but I was worried about potential Fire Punch coverage from Sneasler, which I barely live, and I didn't want to risk taking all that damage without getting some damage back. Reflect is going to go back up as I'm fine stalling a little here, getting some meager body press chip. U-turn is then going to bring out Incineroar, who is a free Thunder Wave thanks to that Jirachi no longer being around. A beautiful double here from the Boopers is going to get Serena in on Gastrodon. If I was smart, I wouldn't have needed to hard switch though, as no speed paralyzed Incineroar outspeeds Fortress by 2 points. The IVs automatically went to 0 when I went with a speed lowering nature to keep damage on the Volt Switch, and I definitely could have foreseen this circumstance and set those back up so that I would outspeed the paralyzed Incineroar and could have Volt Switched instead of hard switching here, but I'm a dummy, so I didn't, and here I pay for it. Geez, just imagine if I had gotten to bring in something like Iron Valiant here. I stay in, and Petal Blizzard easily gets the KO. Probably another big misplay here on my part. I don't remember exactly what my thought was, but I think I might have just over-predicted a U-turn. I should have just hard-switched to Fortress, but losing Gastrodon isn't the biggest deal. It's definitely a toss-up, as now I don't have much to take Enamoris's hits, and things are shaping up like it could have a Choice Scarf. Fortress being able to take Excalibur and sneeze their hits is useful though, so I don't want to take too much extra chip on it. Not a good play, but also not exactly the end of the world on my part here. Petal Blizzard is going to do absolutely nothing as I get some extra chip to bring Serena into Moonblast KO range. Reflect goes up, but that lets me Volt Switch into Iron Valiant. The Boopers let Serena go down here, preserving Ensign's Intimidate for Lycanroc later on. Enamorus comes out instead of Sneasler, which is a pretty strong signal that it's going to be Choice Scarf. If it is, I mean, Valiant is slower than it, and Sneasler, which makes Valiant much less useful, really only outspeeding the Incineroar, which is almost dead, and the Baxcalibur. So I do feel like I just kind of have to call them on it. There is a chance they're bluffing the Choice Scarf, and then hope that maybe they either are bluffing or they overpredict and go for Terra Blast. But nope, that is a Scarf Moonblast, and Iron Valiant is super dead to that. But at least now Fortress can force out the Enamorus. I really want to predict the switch, but I can't risk Enamorus staying in, so I barely tickle the Ensign with Gyro Ball. Luckily, a full para will still let me get the KO on the Ensign that my gut told me was coming in. I'm going to easily take an Earthquake here and Thunder Wave Baxcalibur in case it tried to dance up. Definitely a misplay on my part. I should have body pressed immediately to get Bax in range of Accelerock or be able to KO with a second body press. Thunder Wave was the better play if there was a chance they'd double out, but, I mean, they just had a free switch in. Why would they double out? This is obviously what they want in at this point. We are going to see that here's the dance, though, and Body Press does over half. Earthquake will miss the min roll and will take me out, something I could have avoided if I went straight for Body Press. And I'm looking kind of cooked at this point. I'm going to definitely need Baxcalibur to be fully parried here so I can preserve Sturdy, live a hit from whatever comes in next and KO it back, and then let Scarfed Lycanroc clean up the rest. Unfortunately, with no stronger Rock-type move, Lycanroc needs a crit to KO a standard Enamorus with Accelerock. Oh man, you're telling me there's a chance, come on, baby! Sneeze are going to come out, and then Fake Out is going to trigger Unburden and make me flinch. Crap, that breaks Sturdy, and that means I can't bring Sneasler in range of Accelerock. I probably should have seen that coming after learning Sneasler didn't have a Scarf, but it could have been White Herb or just relying on Scarfed Enamorus for speed. Normal Gem makes a lot of sense, though, and now I'm definitely cooked. I don't know, maybe they'll overpredict to preserve Differential and switch in Enamorus to take a potential Earthquake? Holy crap, the table lives! And the Heavy Slam is easily going to bring Sneasler in range of a follow-up KO. Dire Claw will get the KO, and now it's all up to Lycanroc here. That is one KO with Accelerock, and it will all come down to one last turn. I'm pretty sure that I need a crit to win, but the Boopers are also pretty worried that I could be banded or have a different boosting item. And the Stellar Terra, and then Accelerock Enamorus lives on 4% to win the game with a superpower. Because Enamorus had a minus defense nature, Accelerock actually had about a 38% chance to OHKO there. So close. Man, it does sting to lose on a roll like that, but I definitely got some lucky pairs at the end, as well as the about 25% chance to live Sneasler's close combat after that fake out, so I can't really be that mad. I definitely made some suboptimal plays in there, terroring Ogerpon turn 1, letting Gastrodon go down, and giving Baxcalibur time to KO Fortress, among others. Honestly, I don't think it was anything that would have suddenly put the game in my favor, but it would have meant that I didn't need that much luck to make it to the last turn. This is just another on my list of unfortunate losses this season, but the Boopers 100% deserve this win because their prep was just so dang good. They brought Serena, Ensign took out Ogerpon, and no boots on Enamorus meant that just one Stealth Rock could have put it in guaranteed KO range. However, I scarfed my Lycanroc to counter a Pokemon that didn't come, didn't put Rindoberry on Gastrodon, and left all of my hazards at home. I thought I had good prep, but ultimately the Boopers had my number in the team builder and played a great game to carry that into a win. That's it for this week, though, so thank you for sticking around through the whole video. Next week is the last week of the regular season, and with some Pokemon making their required appearances and coaches scrambling to make playoffs, there's definitely sure to be some crazy matches. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel in the meantime to catch our coverage of the next week and eventually the playoffs, and I'll see you then.